Hey guys, welcome back to the Mental Health Comic Verse. It's your girl Elektra, and today I want to talk about making the wrong turn or the wrong decisions. Now, I'm not here to talk about what's right or what's wrong. This is for the people who have realized they've made a wrong turn, a wrong decision, whatever it is, and you don't know really where to go from here. So what I'm talking about, you guys, is very, very vague because there are a million different types of situations that can lead you to that space of feeling like you're at a dead end. So this can be something that you've done generally, something you've done to someone else, something you didn't do, or even something that you've allowed to happen to yourself. So whether you feel like you've allowed something that's out of your character, or you've done something that's out of your character, maybe it's been in your character all this time, but you're now waking up and you're seeing things for what it really is. And this is probably the most dangerous part about self-reflection or self-awareness. It's facing reality, and sometimes it feels like the ends justified the means. And sometimes it's something that you don't even remember. It was something that was so traumatic that's buried deep in your memories, in your subconscious, and you have no recollection of it yet. And in that specific scenario, in my opinion, I feel like it is best to see a therapist because we're not always equipped. We don't always have the answers. We don't always have the tools. We need to heal ourselves. And I know people think that seeing a therapist just means that you're loco, but it's actually one of the most healthy things that you can do, whoever you are. I definitely feel like everyone can benefit from therapy. All right, so it's like this. We're all on a road that leads to our own personal destination, right? And no one road is the same as the other road. We all have a different journey. We all have a different environment. We all have different personalities. But the one thing that we do have in common is that we all have a vision of some sort, right? And that vision can be anything depending on your road. And most commonly that vision tends to be a family, a loving husband, a loving wife with children. And that's the vision, that's the end goal. Or maybe it's that you want to be financially stable and you want to support your family, you want to help out your family. Or maybe you want to achieve materialistic wealth. Maybe you want to be rich. Maybe you want to be famous. You want notoriety. And this can be long-term or short-term. So whether you see yourself just being debt-free, you see yourself being out of jail, and whether that's literal jail or the jail of a toxic relationship. Like I said, there are a million scenarios, but we are all on some road to some destination, right? And if your drive to get there is very intense, no pun intended, like if your drive, your motivation to get to that goal, to that vision is so intense, you can end up crashing. And I think this happens naturally when you feel like your dreams or your goals are right in your reach. It's right in front of you and you get excited, you begin to accelerate, right? But what happens when you're speeding and you're going too fast and you're lane for your own damn good? What happens? So when you're speeding and you're focused on that one destination, you're zoned in that one destination, you're going so freaking fast, you're zooming right past the stop signs, the do not pass this point, do not enter, do not go past this damn point. You're speeding right by it. Or maybe you see it, maybe you've noticed it, but you're like, I can handle this, I got this, I'm so close, it's okay. It's okay. So for example, let's say you have invested years of time and emotion to your partner, and you get to the point where it says, do not, absolutely do not pass this point. If you pass this point, from here on out, you're going to have allergic reactions to bullshit for the rest of your life. For the rest of your journey, for the rest of this road, you have to deal with sneezing to bullshit for the rest of your journey. And you're like, but you know, you look up and you see your destination and it's just like, it's so close. It's so close. So you're like, okay, well, I'm sure I can get some pills. It'll change. The environment will change. I have pills for that. I have a diffuser for that. Aromatherapy, bitch. So you keep going. And the tricky thing is you cross one wrong boundary and it may send you into a spiral of other boundaries being crossed as well. And so now you're making left turns to avoid said allergy. But when your vision feels so close, just right in reach, it feels like it doesn't really matter. Like once you reach that destination, none of this will even matter anyways, right?
Right.
So sooner or later, you come to realize finally, eventually, hopefully, that actually the more you ignore the stop signs and the warning signs, the further you are straying from where you're meant to be, your destination, the good stuff. You just get so caught up in the adrenaline and the rush of your vision. You want to go down your path, what you had planned for you, and you don't want to stray away from it because you've invested time and energy and you're like,
why isn't this working out?
This is supposed to be my plan. This is what's meant for me. But let me tell you something. What's meant for you, it will never feel that forced. Whether that's relationships or careers, whatever it is, it will never feel that forced. So unfortunately, you failed to realize that there was a reason that do not enter sign was there. And now you are seeing it, now you are realizing it, and you feel like you're at a dead end. And you're like,
where do I go from here? Who am I now? What is this? What happened?
So the good news is that the dead end is not actually a dead end. It just feels like a dead end because you've gone down so far, you're just in the dark and you just see blank. You just see demons, you just see all the stuff that you did, all the mistakes, and that's what you're engulfed in now. And let me just say, this is not for the people who are like,
oh my God, I messed up. I'm so sorry.
And they're just saying it because they want to feel better about what they've done to somebody or whatever they did. This is not for you, okay? If you're next week, next month, back to the same old fuck shit that you've been doing, how you've been operating, this is not for you, okay? I'm not here to give anyone an excuse for their actions. I'm not giving anyone an excuse to take accountability for what they have done. You have to always own up to your shit and what you have done before you can even move forward from that. And some people just own up to it and say sorry and say it won't happen again just to do it again, just to, you know, avoid the shit, just to say sorry. They say sorry just to say sorry, not because they mean it. I do think that most people deserve a second chance if they are genuine about it. And I know a lot of people, there are a lot of people who pretend to be sorry, or maybe they do feel sorry, but just because they're guilty. You know, so, and there's a huge difference in that. And so they're only saying sorry to soothe their own guilt, to not feel guilty about what they have actually done, but they don't actually truly care because next week, next month, they're back to acting the same old way that they were last week. So this is not for you guys. This is for the people who are trying to better themselves for themselves, not just because if you don't go to this therapy, your relationship is going to end, or because it's court ordered. You know, you're doing this for your damn self. And if you have done someone wrong, I do encourage you to express that regret to them and start there. So like I've said, it's not always about what you've done, but what you've allowed to happen to yourself. And that can be such a hard pill to swallow and to forgive yourself. But when you're at a dead end, the most important thing you can do is forgive yourself. That is the most important thing that you can do, is to forgive yourself. And I know that you can all relate to this. We've all made mistakes. We've all done something wrong where we wish we could take it back, or we just wish we've done things differently. And when we have no one else to blame but ourselves, we do tend to be our own worst critics. We zone in on all the mistakes that we've made, how we could have done them differently, how we could have approached things, just all those things. So then the question becomes, how do I forgive myself? How do I do it when I'm in a dead end? I can't reverse. I can't make any more turns. I can't go forward. I'm just in a dark space. I don't know where to go. I'm at a dead end and I feel trapped. I feel stuck.
Where do I go?
Facing my demons. Usually when you're at this dead end, that's what you're left with. You're left with darkness and your demons. And you need to figure out how to face them and how to heal from them. All right, so I've come up with 3 steps on how to forgive yourself and how to get out of this dead end that you find yourself in. So number 1 is self-awareness. Self-awareness is key. I talk about this in all my videos.
Self-awareness.
You have to acknowledge the thing that's making you feel this way and why. You know, the first step is usually the hardest. You have to sit with yourself and ask yourself the uncomfortable questions. Why do I feel this way? Why did I do this? Why didn't I do this? And most importantly, what is the root of that reason? What is the root of that reason? And that is the key. Once you're able to identify the root problem, you have now learned a lesson from this crazy ass journey. Which leads me to number 2, learn from every situation that you go through, learn from it. Every single situation is a positive. It is. Every single situation. If you are willing to learn from it, if you are willing to take away something from that experience, then you can turn it into a positive, and that's all in your hands. And I mean, if you're not willing to learn, then you're doomed to repeat the same mistakes in different ways.
But that's none of my business.
And I have to stress the fact that you have to learn the lesson and find the root problem. Because you may think, oh yeah, I learned my lesson. I am never dating that kind of guy again. I'm never letting myself get into this type of situation again. And you may think that on a surface level, that is your lesson. But if you don't find out what attracted you to this situation, to this person, to this toxicity, if you don't find out why that happened in the first place, then there is a very, very fucking high chance that you are going to attract that same thing right over again in a different form, in a different situation. You know, same thing, different situations. And in these type of situations, it's usually the lack of self-love. But the reason for that lack is always very different. And, you know, a lot of people think just because they're raised in a household with 2 parents who may have been loving or whatever, it means that they don't have any childhood traumas or any childhood wounds that they have internalized into their adult life. But that is far from the truth, which is why it's very important to have an open mind and to be very honest with yourself.
Self-awareness is key.
And that's the power of awareness. You can move on from the most negative thing because you can truly say, well, I wouldn't be where I am now. I wouldn't have realized X, Y, and Z if this had never happened. It's a huge blessing. It's a huge lesson if you let it be. And even if you still have hurt towards that situation, you can at least begin to move forward from it. So moving on to number 3 is to trust yourself and trust in the universe and know that everything happens for a reason, okay? And I know this is the most cliche thing. You hear it a million times. I've heard it all my life. If you're not a spiritual or religious person, then I get it. Trust me, I get it, but I do strongly recommend that you get in touch with your inner universe because it does help a lot. And that's a whole nother video on its own. Because the thing is, when you truly believe, when you know for a fact that everything happens for a reason, you don't really sweat anything. Like even if you react, because that's just your immediate reaction, you don't really sweat anything because you're like, it's okay because everything happens for a reason. And you're not saying it as a coping mechanism just to soothe your mind for the moment and move on to the next moment. You're really saying it like, I know this is all in its plan. This is going to work out. It's all good. It's going to be smooth sailing. I know it's going to work out. It's okay. And I think people have this concept of faith, like when you're at this dead end and you're in the dark, you're supposed to just blindly move forward inch by inch and just trust and move forward and it'll be okay and you can just keep going. And I get that, but I don't really agree with that. I don't really see it that way because that's kind of like missing the first 2 steps. And if you don't do the first 2 steps, you know, if you keep going without experiencing the full effects of the darkness that you're in without healing from it, then even if you reach your destination, your goal, then you will probably most likely, not to be negative, but you will probably self-sabotage it in some way. So anyways, to me, when you have faith, it doesn't mean that you're in the dark. Because guess what, you guys? Once you achieve this step of knowing that everything really happens for a reason, that dead end that you're in, it's actually just a dark cloud. And that dark cloud finally gets lifted and you can see a magical door. A magical door. And the twist is that door has actually been there all along. It's been there through every stop sign, through every wrong turn. It has always been there. But the door does not appear until you are ready to enter it. You know, it's kind of like that phrase, what is it? The teacher does not appear until the student is ready to learn. And just like that, that's how this door is. And what is behind this magical door? A new perspective sprinkled with some trust and some faith. And all the little good stuff that you've been praying and wanting for or hoping for, whatever you want to call it. You got to be realistic. You're not going to magically come into this whole new situation, but it is like you're in a whole new world because everything you see it differently. You see where you are now. You see that you are in the light. You're not actually in the dark. And you see why it's happening the way that it's supposed to be happening. And even if there's a hill in your journey and you can't see past that hill, that's okay, because you're enjoying the moment that you're in now. And you can still see your vision, you can still see your destination, and you know that everything happens for a reason, so it's okay. There's no need to speed, there's no need to ignore warning signs, okay? You go down your course of path, you enjoy it, and you will get to that destination when you get to it, okay? Because what's meant for you is
Meant for you.
and that's why trusting yourself at the very least, if you don't trust in the universe, trusting yourself at the very least is so important. And so you're really able to enjoy and learn from the moment that you're in right now, because you know that that vision, that goal, that destination that you have, that you want, you'll get to it. It's just that simple. All right, you guys, I hope this was useful and informative to you in some way. I've just been noticing that a lot of people have been feeling down and stuck. And when you don't really know who you are anymore, it can be really confusing. But give yourself as much sympathy as you would for a friend. Be your own friend and give yourself that same sympathy that you would. Give yourself the same patience that you would for somebody else. Because like I said, we tend to be our own worst critics. So learn how to forgive yourself and know that the power is always in your hands to find that door and create your own path and enjoy it, especially. And I know we have labels put on us, but that doesn't matter either, because we choose who we are every single day. Yesterday's already over, so who are you today? Who are you going to be tomorrow? You know, that's what matters. Who you are now and forward is what's always going to matter. You know, we're always growing, hopefully most of us. And so we always have a chance every day to be a new us, to be a new version, a better version. I can be very aggressive, but I can also be very soft. I can be very nerdy, but I'm also very girly. I can be very cocky, but I'm also very humble. You know, there's a lot of different sides to me, just like there's a lot of different sides to you. And you don't have to be boxed in one label. You can mix in a bunch of labels and create a whole new label. And you know, you don't have to allow the wrong turns to paralyze you. Find the power in it by making it the thing that frees you. If you've realized your own toxic behaviors, good for you, first of all, and kill it. Kill it by healing it and moving forward and being a better version of yourself. And lastly, no one can tell you who you are except you. And if you don't tell them, if you don't know who you are, someone will. And usually that value that they put on you is less than what you actually are. So, all right, you guys, thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on post notifications. And I will see you next time. Stay fly and free.